Hello, this is Gail Cord-Schuler. I'm the one with the genetic profile of Catherine the Great and King David. Vladimir Putin has requested that I make this video to counter the lying news media reporting, especially by the Western press, regarding the Russian elections for the Russian parliament, which took place this is December the 5th, 2011. The results have come in. The true results of the election is that the United Russia Party, that's Vladimir Putin's party, has won about 70% of the vote. But the Jesuits control most of the Western press, and they're lying and saying that they won less than 50. If you eliminate the Jesuit vote, and Jesuits are not allowed to vote in Russia under my conspiracy law, which Vladimir Putin has made law in Russia, if you eliminate the Jesuit vote, the true results for the United Russia Party is 70%. So Vladimir Putin has an overwhelming victory in the United Russia Party, and the Jesuit-controlled Western press is lying about the results of this election. Vladimir has the majority that he needs to do his job as Russian president. Jesuits control most of the international news media, and they're big liars. And that's why USA Today in November 2001 lied when Vladimir made his pioneer visit to the United States. And this was in November 2001, and they claimed that he had a wife named Ludmila. Even though at the time he was a widower whose wife Larissa died shortly before Vladimir Putin became Russian president. And you could ask Vladimir Putin under lie detection if this is the case. We have the technology now where we can determine if somebody's lying or telling the truth. You may say, well, why does he publish on his official website that he has a wife named Ludmila? From what I understand, he's starting to change this. He cooperated with this lie because if he did not, President George W. Bush threatened war with Russia if he would not legally marry Ludmila Putin and claim that she was his wife. You say, why would George Bush do this? Because President Bush at that time was afraid of the Jesuits. The Jesuits were the ones behind the USA Today news article that lied and claimed that Vladimir Putin had a wife named Ludmila. And the way the article was worded, it stated that President Bush's wife, Laura Bush, would escort Ludmila on a tour of President Bush's ranch in Texas, in Crawford, Texas. And I guess because President Bush was worried that if he wouldn't cooperate with this USA Today lying newspaper article that his wife Laura would be targeted, he ordered Vladimir Putin under threat of war, in order to protect his wife Laura Bush, that Vladimir must show up with a wife named Ludmila so that the Jesuits would not target his wife Laura Bush. And that's why Vladimir cooperated with the lie. But this really wasn't fair to Vladimir, because he did not. Ludmila Putin is not the woman that Vladimir Putin married in 1983. The woman he married in 1983, her name was Larissa, and she died shortly before Vladimir Putin became Russian president. So I went off on that tangent to show that the Jesuits have a morbid obsession over Vladimir Putin's love for me, because I have the genetic profile of Catherine the Great and King David, and they know that I stand in their way for a worldwide dictatorship. So, you know, just like they controlled USA Today, they're controlling all of the news releases right now, and they're lying and claiming that Vladimir has suffered a big loss in the elections for Russian parliament, and we can prove with evidence that the Jesuits are behind these lies in the Western press and in the European press. The Jesuits are a very powerful organization. They're the richest and most powerful organization on earth, and they control most of the international press. The Jesuits are not allowed to vote in the Russian election, and they allowed their votes to count, and then they lied about the results and published this. Like I said, you eliminate the Jesuit vote, the win for the United Russia Party was 70%. And they're lying in that they're claiming that the votes are rigged. The only way that the votes are rigged is that we don't allow Jesuits to vote. Other than that, they're not rigged, and they're lying about that. And Vladimir can also prove that if you ask him under lie detection. But the Jesuits decided to count their vote, and then they published lies in the news media. In Russia, we do not allow Jesuits to vote. We consider them war criminals, and we do not allow war criminals to vote in the Russian elections. And they lied and claimed that, because they counted their own vote, that the vote for the United Russia Party was just under 50%. And they included their own vote in this. The Jesuits claim that the election is dirty because their vote doesn't count. That's the real reason they think the election is rigged and dirty. We do not allow Jesuits to vote in Russia. So the actual vote, when you eliminate the Jesuit vote, is the United Russia Party has 70% in the State Duma or the Russian Parliament. My conspiracy law is law in Russia, and it is death penalty for a Jesuit to vote in any Russian election. Because the Jesuits are terrorists, murderers, and they want Russia to return to the Soviet Union, like it was when they controlled Russia. The Jesuits were responsible for Russia becoming the Soviet Union. They were behind Stalin and Lenin, and they want to bring Russia right back to where it was under those leaders, especially under Stalin. Vladimir is going to interview some Jesuits to see if I tell the truth here, and he will present this on international news. We're going to interview some Jesuits under computer satellite law detection, which will determine whether they're lying or not. And we're going to ask these Jesuits the following questions, especially any Jesuits who voted in this election who should not have voted, and there were many who did. Did the Jesuit order allow the Jesuit votes to count in this election, even though it is death penalty to do so in Russia? We're going to ask them that question. We believe that they did. And then did they publish the results of this vote? To allow Jesuit votes to count in Russia is illegal. And to publish the lies that the Russian Parliament win for the United Russia Party was less than 50% because the Jesuit vote counted is a lie. Jesuit votes do not count in Russia. Number two, the next question we're going to ask Jesuits that we're interviewing is, why do Jesuits want to run Russia? And they do want to run Russia. We know that for sure. That's why they're so interested in these elections and why they're rigging the elections in their favor. They know their votes are illegal in Russia. They are lying and claiming that we counted their votes when we did not. You say, well, how do you eliminate the Jesuit vote? Well, we allow people to vote, and then we use computer satellite analysis brain reads of everyone who votes, and if a Jesuit happens to get in a voting booth and cast the votes, we make that vote invalid. We do not count a Jesuit vote. And that's why the Jesuits are claiming we rigged the election, because we don't count Jesuit votes. So the reason the Jesuits want to run Russia, and we're going to ask them this, Jesuits, isn't it true that you want to eliminate me and Vladimir Putin so that you can use Russia to launch a nuclear holocaust on the world? Or you want to stop Russia from preventing your nuclear holocaust over the world? And is this the real reason you rigged the elections in your favor and lied about the results, even though you know in Russia it's death penalty for a Jesuit to vote, and you allowed your votes to count, and then you published that in your Western-controlled press and lied about Vladimir Putin and claimed he rigged the elections? Number three, Jesuits, did you lie about the election to make Vladimir Putin appear to rig the election? In other words, you're trying to make it look like he rigged the election when you rigged the election, when your votes are not allowed to count in Russia. And did you do so to make him appear a murdering criminal so that you can kill me or some of the men on my marriage list and make it look like Vladimir Putin is the murderer so that you can frame him with your murder of me? Was that the reason you did this, Jesuits? I allege that it is. And we're going to ask them this under computer satellite brain reads and lie detection. I allege that this, Vladimir will show this in a separate, we're going to interview several Jesuits and Jesuit leaders in Russia and ask them if they allowed their votes to count when they know it's death penalty to do so. We will present evidence that that they allowed their votes to count, and that is why the win for the United Russia Party, they claim, was under 50%. When you eliminate the Jesuit vote, the United Russia Party had an overwhelming victory. It was 70% of the vote. And that is the true result of the elections in Russia, because Jesuits are not allowed to vote in Russia. We will present evidence that this is so, that our win was 70% today for the United Russia Party, which is Vladimir Putin's party. Vladimir decided that he would allow the Western press to say that he had about 50% of the vote, simply because the Western press and the European press are so controlled by the Jesuits that if he didn't go along with this, they would just blast it all over the world that he rigged the elections. But the truth is, the only way he rigged the elections is he doesn't allow Jesuits to vote. Other than that, they're full of crap, these Jesuits. So Vladimir decided just to play this game. In actuality, Vladimir Putin is the Russian emperor. We have a monarchy in Russia. But he's a very fair emperor, and he's allowing the election to give his people a chance to voice their opinions. And he's allowing the State Duma and the parliament to give his people a chance to voice their opinions. He's a wise monarch in that he realizes that you need to have the people's support if you want to continue as a monarch. But as a monarch, he realizes that Jesuits are dangerous for Russia and the world because they were behind the Chechen rebel conflict. That Beslan school massacre where hundreds of school children died, those were Jesuit terrorists. Vladimir Putin is wise and right to not allow Jesuits to run Russia. So I'm going to announce to the world that the true results today for the United Russia Party was a 70% win for Vladimir Putin, and that all of the Western media is controlled by the Jesuits, and they're lying when they say it was less than that. They're allowing the Jesuit vote to count when Jesuits are not allowed to vote in Russia, and if they do so, it's death penalty if anybody allows that vote to count. And we will execute the Jesuits who are behind this lying news media reporting and lying and saying that the Jesuit vote counts in Russia when it does not. And then they're using that to lie and say that the State Duma results for the United Russia Party was less than 50%. They will be executed in public execution. We're going to show that. It's death penalty to do that in the Russian vote. We don't put up with Jesuits. We consider them war criminals, and they're not, and they are executed in Russia. The United Russia Party had a 70% win today. And Jesuits, because we eliminated the Jesuit vote, and that's how we rigged the elections. So I'm going to announce that to the world.